Hi, let's talk about mastering in Atmos. We all know what mastering looks like in stereo, but in Atmos things are different. Personally, I think it would be more accurate to replace the term mastering with quality control. One of the things that you need to check is downmix settings. You will need to make sure that the mix sounds balanced and that there are no issues like comb filtering, especially in 5.1. You also might want to adjust trim settings for artistic reasons or to comply with label specs. And of course, you need to check the binaural render and that it sounds good. Built-in binaural render will give you an idea of how the mix will sound on platforms like Tidal or Amazon. If you want to check your mix on consumer speakers or in Apple's spatial audio, you will need to create an MP4 file. And you can also send it to clients so that they can listen to the mix themselves. Currently, it can only be generated through the official Dolby Atmos renderer application. Of course, you can add processing to beds and objects. You can even adjust panning. Now you can see how an Atmos mix looks imported into a DAW. There are beds and objects as separate tracks, and you might accidentally start mixing. Don't forget that the main goal of this process is quality control. Now, let's talk about loudness, because it's more complicated than it might seem. First of all, I found that DAWs like Cubase, Nuendo and Logic can show wrong loudness measurements. Usually errors are not very high, around 0.2 dB, but to get an accurate measurement of loudness, you will again need Dolby Atmos Production Suite. Once you import your mix into the renderer, you can use the loudness analysis menu to measure loudness. But you also must check the loudness of the binaural render. If the mix is too dynamic, it can engage a limiter at the playback stage, and you will have no control over how it sounds. I aim for a peak-to-loudness ratio of 14 dB. For example, this mix in binaural sits at -17.3 LUFS, and the peak value is -2.5. The peak-to-loudness ratio is 14.8 dB. This is not terrible, but on some platforms and systems, a limiter might be engaged to reduce the peaks by 0.8 dB. To properly QC, you will either need an Android phone or Dolby reference player, which actually is not currently sold directly. I simplify things quite a bit, and if you want to really understand the QC process to the full extent, you should watch a video by Justin Gray. It's more than 3 hours long and is arguably the most important video on the topic of Atmos. The link will be in the description. Once you go through every step of QC, you can export the final ADM file. The mastering and QC is a very complicated process, and I barely scratched the surface. I would again advise you to watch Justin's video to get a full understanding of the process. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.